It's a well-known fact that there are no happy endings in Night City, but why? Why does everything implode and explode over the course of Edgerunners in an exquisite story that tears out our hearts and makes us sob like babies? As grimy and neon a setting as Night City is, it's not all that different from the world we live in today. Truth is stranger than fiction, and Edgerunners is about some of the most common, tragic struggles that we face as humans. We relate to the insecurity and fear of characters like David, Maine, or Lucy, and we can also understand and appreciate the tragic mistakes made by the beautifully written characters of Edgerunners. Mistakes that we can understand as the viewer, but mistakes that we very likely could have made ourselves had we been in David or Lucy's shoes. A good story is written to remind us of the human condition, of our strengths and weaknesses, of our habits, and how we can challenge those habits. And in a story like Edgerunners, we are sucked in by the fact that all of the lessons and themes we witness are ones that we, in our society, experience every day. Night City is a genuine cesspool. It has awesome clothes, it has a striking neon aesthetic that fits right in with the Vaporwave soundtrack, you know? Cyberware is pretty awesome too, but let's be real, this world is a destructive one. The Cyberpunk world is vicious and unforgiving. All the cool stuff is like duct taping a hole on the wall, the hole's still there. The divide between rich and poor in Night City is astronomical.
A reality that's not all that different from our own.
Most people live lives of squalor and scarcity, with many people just living out on the street. It's like the Wild West, with the widespread gang activity and the corporate conflicts that use this city as a battleground, and its people as fodder. Corporations only care about the bottom line in this world, and in ours, and surrounding David Martinez in his first few minutes are people who are passed out on the pavement, people wasting away in the street, a pile of gore on the sidewalk. There is no hope for pretty much everybody in Night City who wasn't fortunate enough to be born as a corpo or another higher class person.
Or somebody who is willing to play the Night City game. Even V says that nobodies do not survive in Night City. The only way to stay alive, at least for a while, is to partake in the Night City life, submitting yourself to extreme modification and/or exploitation.
David is lucky enough that his mother did everything she could to ensure that he was slightly more comfortable than most other people in Night City, but not enough to eliminate the damage that a place like Night City would eventually deal to her son. Because David is reminded every single day that he is not good enough due to circumstances beyond his control. He is impoverished and lower class in this world where wealth equals power. David is looking at a dead-end future, and the insecurities that develop over his lifetime of belittlement are why David so quickly believes that he is special. And it was this belief in his own wishful exemption from the rules that ultimately led to his downfall. You could absolutely argue that David was special from a biological, cybernetic standpoint. I will not contest that. But when you go down to brass tacks, I don't think David was all that different. Just like every other character whose downfall we witness in Edgerunners. David was just as susceptible as anyone in Night City to the best marketing tactic in the corporate world of feeling inadequate. The ingrained idea that you are nothing, and that to be something you need more and more and more. Just one more implant. Just one more implant. Maybe another one, and another. Or that if he had been stronger, he could have saved his mother. David carries these what ifs and I'll be happy when I get to this point throughout the rest of his life. Just like so many other characters who don't know when to quit. We live in a world that is already like this. We're surrounded by marketing and advertising that preys on a chronic need to feel like we fit in, to feel like we're good enough. If we want to feel good, we must get this product. It sounds really dumb, but that's how a lot of it works. What are you missing in your life that this product or this thing we're making can fill that void? And of course there is no band-aid quick solution that actually works. Cyberpunk is no different, as we see with David and Maine. In seeking fulfillment in the external, we stray further from it.
All the money and enhancements in the world are fruitless if the opinion you hold of yourself is that you're not good enough.
David, Maine, Pilar, and even Faraday are all victims of this, thinking that they were special enough that the system didn't apply to them, when in all actuality, the corpo system made them into the people that they became, to fulfill its own ends of benefiting at the cost of other people's well-being. None of these stories in Night City are new or unique. And it's not necessary for them to be, because what makes the stories we see in Edgerunners, like the tragic life of David Martinez or the horrible death of Maine, is because every single one of us can recognize that stories like this, both in Cyberpunk and our world, happen every day. This is one of the more obvious ones, I think, but I can't help but mention it because it gets me every time. Every single couple in this show ends up relatively the same way. In the game too. I don't know much about tabletop RPG, but let me know if you've noticed this as well. Truly, there is no happy ending in love for anybody in Cyberpunk, and it's really devastating when you realize why. Lucy and David are the first most obvious example. David stays in Night City, getting caught up in his brutal quest for more and more, biting off more than he can chew, while Lucy, who wants to leave, stays in Night City in a vain attempt to try and protect him, which nearly results in her death, and then David dies, and it just, you know. But then there's Maine and Dorio. Maine, who spent maybe decades building himself up, only to die like a dog after the death of Dorio, as she tries to save his life. We see Jackie getting in over his head, with his final words with Misty being that of an argument. And although Misty does not die and continues to live on in Cyberpunk 2077, a part of her does die with Jackie. But we see a pattern in Cyberpunk of the men in this story trying to fly as high as they possibly can, only to get burned by the sun. And the women they love either dying in an attempt to stop them, or trying to save them from themselves, or just having a part of them dying with the men that they love.
And just to touch on it a bit, Cyberpunk does have its own commentary on the harmfulness of expectations that society has for men and women. And I love that about this story. Cyberpunk displays the gross normalization of sexual harassment and violence, primarily against women. It shows the cruelty of exploitation against those too weak to defend themselves. And it shows the damage of rigid societal expectations that strength and power are essential to fulfillment, especially for men, creating a constant sense of never being enough. All of these things end up leading to the downfalls of countless characters in this series, and I think the latter is especially front and center in Edgerunners.
Lucy and David are the crowning jewel of this tragic phenomenon, and I think, and maybe this is just me being hopeful, that Lucy can start a new life, that she can take a page out of Misty's book, so to speak, and go beyond the events that she lived through in Night City. Lucy and David's story can teach us a bit about love and healthy relationships, and that sometimes you don't gotta reach for the stars to live a happy life. Sometimes staying grounded with your person, whoever that may be, communicating with them, being a team with them, is a million times better. It's easy to look at David's willingness to make the dreams of those he cared about come true, and scratch your head. How could he not see that those very people would have wanted him to live for himself had they known where their dreams would take him? But we gotta remember that David is living his life scared and basing his value on what he can do for others. The more he is capable of, the less that can harm him, or so he may have thought. He lives a life placing his worth in others. He brushes off Lucy's initial urging of him living his own dream, already sitting with his own guilt over his mother's death. But we can see throughout his story that what she says here is one of the truest pieces of unfollowed advice in the whole show. If he'd listened, we would have had a very different story. David spends the majority of Edgerunners trying to achieve the perceived dreams of others. Perhaps on the surface it seems to be an exclusively good-natured thing, and I'm sure a part of it is, but it's masking how David feels about himself. He's only as good as the dreams he can fulfill for others, which is very sad. He puts himself in grave danger, and these instances shape him into someone with the makings of a much darker person. They give him blind spots to what he has right in front of him. He does not stop to think about what he himself, as an individual, wants from his life. The point of David's story is that even though he did everything to try and make the dreams of the people he cared about come true, even in the cases that he did get to that point of making them literally come true, he didn't actually make them come true.
For David's mom, the core of what she wanted was a happy, successful, and safe life for her son. Rather than just giant muscles and insane cyberware, the core of Maine's dream was to be strong enough to survive and succeed in the world of cyberpunk.
And Lucy, in the end, did not want to go to the moon. She just wanted David. Her dream, unfortunately, became wrapped up in keeping him alive, which... What Edgerunners tries to tell us with this is that we shouldn't spend our lives feeling the pressure of living for other people. Be it long or short, we all deserve to be able to have our own dreams and to try to pursue them. You don't gotta live to make other people happy, because that is a road that will inevitably lead you to sadness. No one's ever aced that. Even if you feel pressured to live a certain life by other people. A recurring theme in Edgerunners is a struggle against past horrors. Characters, like Maine, spend their lives literally running towards strength and power, warding away the pain of weakness. Pilar dives in head first to basic pleasures, to numb the pain of his own self-hatred. David strives to be as far from helpless as he can, so more of his loved ones don't die. All of this does not help these characters grow, it just buries them in a deeper hole. The dramatic irony of stories like this is always great. In trying to avoid something, you actually pull yourself closer to it. But Edgerunners presents what fear and insecurity can do to a person, all while convincing someone that everything they're doing is what has to be done. In the minds of these characters, they believe they are confronting their demons when all they are doing is feeding them. But the main characters in our story fear things beyond bullets. They fear what lurks within themselves. In Edgerunners, instead of people identifying and recognizing their fears and weaknesses and trying to find healthy ways of coping and management, instead of seeking personal growth and getting out of Night City, they do the opposite. And this is not just due to them. The environment of Night City does not promote any other lifestyle. Night City is basically a state of mind. All the tragic arcs in Edgerunners are of characters who could have left Night City, but instead chose to stay. As Lucy says, Night City is truly a prison. Thank you for watching and or listening, guys. This was a big one, and I hope that you enjoyed. I want to hear what you took away from Edgerunners in the comments. Please let me know. It is always interesting to read what you guys have to say. I am already recording footage for 2077 character analyses. I think I'm gonna start with T-Bug, I'm not sure. Look for that in the next couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I have one more Edgerunners video lined up for Faraday, and I also have started writing scripts for covering Shogun, the FX show. I'm excited for that. If you haven't seen it, it's a fantastic show. I read the book. Yeah, definitely check it out. The book's amazing too. Thank you very much for watching, guys. All the best to you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!